last storyteller who said, you've seen him for sure if you've been here before. He's the host of the Open Mic Nights. The story that he's sharing with us tonight is very special, but I'm not allowed to tell you why. But you can ask him during the break and just make him feel very comfortable, and he will have to tell you. Yeah? Yes? Chidi, are you here or?
I'm here.
Okay.
Just hiding.
So, for a very, very special story that I'm not allowed to tell you why, and for is there anything? Oh yes, I know what your story is about. Your story is about being thrown out of a nightclub.
Yeah.
And it described it as an explosion of foolishness. So, are you ready for this explosion? Yeah. Woo!
Okay, thank you. I'll just confess, the reason it's special is because it's advice. It's New Year's advice, simple New Year's advice. And the advice is this: if you get thrown out of a nightclub, right? If you get thrown out, it's really important that the way you are ejected and land, leaves your dignity intact. That's what it's all about. You land and, So let me explain. A couple of months ago, I went to a club for the first time in a long time. The last time I went to a club was before my kids were born, and my kids are now grown up. So it's been a long time. And I feel my club time came and went, and you young people can go in club. But I went to the club because a friend of mine called Brutus had spent 3 years trying to get me to go to his club. And so I agreed, and I said, okay, I'll come to your club. So finally, I go to the club. Before I go to the club, I go to my wardrobe and get my old club clothes. And there's this really funny thing about time, because time has a way of shrinking your clothing. That it just, it's a bit shrunk. Yeah, it doesn't matter, I got new clothing. So I went to the club, and it was just wonderful. It was just great. People were friendly, everybody was smiley. And then I knew something was wrong. You know those horror films that begin on a sunny summer afternoon. Everything is really nice. You sort of go to this out-of-town town. You get to a diner. You order something to eat. And you notice everybody's just smiling at you. And they're smiling at you and they're licking their lips. And so you know something is wrong. And I knew something was wrong in the club. And it took me about 10 minutes to figure out what it was. And what was wrong, or it wasn't wrong, but the condition was this. Everybody in the club had hair except for me. Laugh, but it's not funny. Because you have mountains of hair. Some people had mountains of hair, some people had crazy hair, some people had, ordinary hair. But some of them were baldists. And how do I know they were baldists? Because they would do things like, they'd say, hey, and they just do their hair like that. Another person would come and say, good morning, do a hair like that. And the thing is that, fortunately, I'm sensitive enough not to be fooled by those kind words. Because I knew the messages in all those hand movements. I've got hair. So do I. Where is your hair? You see, I knew what was going on. But I tried to calm down, and I knew why they were doing it, but that doesn't mean it didn't hurt, because it really hurt a lot. It hurt my feelings, all this blatant baldism. It hurt my feelings. It was like being sort of poked in the head, sort of like here and like there, but lots of pokes at once. And it's a terrible experience, And I just felt down. I actually felt down. I wanted to sulk. And those of you who know me very well know that I'm Nigerian. I'm from a place called Ohafia in Nigeria. And we're genetically disposed that when we sulk, we want to cry. So what I decided to do was to avoid the crying, to get a stiff drink, a stiff, solid drink. So I went to the bar, and Brutus was there, and I said, Brutus, give me a nawao. Now, a nawao is a Nigerian cocktail. All right? If you go to Nigeria, forget about Boko Haram, they're stupid people, go to the rest of Nigeria and order a nawao, and you'll have friends immediately. Because in the nawao, what it does to you, it gives you the courage and strength to withstand all kinds of humiliation. Okay? So I said, Bruce, give me a nawao. He said, what's that? And so I said, come here. I whispered the ingredients. I can't tell you what they are for legal reasons. But he mixed up a nawao, which was great. He handed it to me, which is even better. And then he did something that turned him into my ex-friend. He said, on the house. I couldn't take it. I was enraged, so I slapped the Nawal along the counter. It flew off the counter. The guy was dancing, turned around, grabbed it in his hand, swallowed it, did a backflip, and went up to the ceiling, where he stayed about 5 centimeters from the ceiling for about 14 seconds before coming down and screaming, "That's magic." I said, "No, it's not magic. It's a Nawal." Right. Then, in my pain and agony, because of all the hair business, I went into the bathroom. So I went into the bathroom, and fortunately it wasn't crowded. There was just one guy sort of doing something with a mirror and a razor blade, and then this other guy was a friend of mine called David. And David, his shoulders are here. David is massive. And the reason David is massive is that his mother was an internationally famous bodybuilder. And some of the supplements, the protein supplements that she took, got into the system when he was in her. And so 7 minutes after David was born, he was bouncing around the hospital room. 7 minutes. The doctor said, "Ha, you have a bouncy little boy." They took him home, put him in the cot, put him to sleep. Half an hour later they heard, and they found him in the family gym. And he was bench pressing 10 kilos. Not even a day old. This is David. But David is such a wonderful, sweet person. He saw me come in there. I was just like, I'm crying. I'm sorry, I was crying. I was weeping like a baby. And he did what all kind people do. He said, "Oh, it's going to be okay." And he patted me on the back. Now, we all know from our physics in school that one man's pat is another man's wrecking ball. David hit me on the back, and all the air in my lungs said, "Adios." It was gone. Then my body bent. I couldn't help it. My body began to bend forward, and I thought, "Oh, I'm going to hit the sink," and that mirror thing with all those white powders that some of you make, called cocaine. And I almost panicked. Then I remembered the good words of my therapist, who said, "When terror calls, breathe through the nose." So I inhaled, but I had vacuum lungs, so the powder disappeared inside me. And I looked in the mirror, there's not a trace of it left. And then I got this flashback, because suddenly it was old school again. I had MMC. Now, MMC means nothing to a lot of you, but for people who were clubbing back in the day, before I had kids, MMC, right, was Move Master C. That was me. I was the dance king. I was the groove god. I was beyond amazing. I'm boasting here. I have every right to boast, because those of you whose parents may have been in Amsterdam in the 90s, just do this thing. Go to your parents, look at them in the eye, and say, "MMC." And you'll see that their eyes will just, like that. Then you say it again, "MMC," and they'll blink. They will blink. And they will blink in a manner of ecstasy. There'll be smiles on their faces. And then finally, you hit them with a "MMC in the house." And when you say that, they will tear off their clothes. They will stop being boring old parents. And they will dance around in their underwear in a way that may traumatize some of you for a few years. But don't worry, you'll get over it. You will recover. Okay? So that was me. Of course, with this new MMC in the house, I went back onto the dance floor and I began to deliver my moves. Just so you know, I had 1,399 patented dance moves, right? I was the move king. I went onto the floor. I hit them with the alligator slide, okay? You don't know that one. Then I did, let's say, the double raccoon backward roll. That's an amazing move. I also did the chicken two-step. I was amazing. I was spinning around. Unfortunately, I hadn't been dancing for a long time, so I was a bit tired. I was sweating, and my sweat was spraying all over the place. And I noticed an odd thing about young people. Like, when we were in my age, and when I was dancing in my time, and we took drugs, we didn't do odd things. We might sort of nibble somebody's leg, on the floor. But what they were doing, my sweat was flying everywhere, and they were sort of going like this. They were I'd never seen anything like this in my entire life. It was amazing. And I was just there dancing away, feeling absolutely wonderful. And suddenly, from both sides, somebody said, "Hey, that's nice, that's nice." And what happened was, I had two people, and they demanded I not mention their names or country of origin. So what happened was somebody, a young lady, who may or may not have come from Tanzania, was on my left, and she had this sort of stripy kind of tube thing, which was amazing. It sort of worked with the black light, so it looked as if between here and here were just made of stripes. And then she had these silver trousers, and her dancing was absolutely elegant. Then on the right, there was another young lady, 2 meters, 15 or so. She may or may not have come from Zwolle in Netherlands. She was dressed in green with green leggings and a yellow miniskirt. And her dancing was magnificent, it was glorious. And for me, dancing between these two ladies, it was a sense of magic. I just felt absolutely wonderful, you know. And just as I just felt brilliant, actually. And I was about to go into one of my most famous moves, move 1302, right? Which is basically the squirrel twirl. I was about to do the squirrel twirl, and one guy who obviously had some issues with me said, "Hey, Daddy-O." I lost my concentration. My right foot didn't go where it was meant to go. That meant there was no room for my left foot. That meant I was going down. And as you know, when people are going down, what do our hands do? They try to grab on things. The left hand grabbed the tube. You shouldn't do this at all. It's a very wrong thing, and I feel ashamed that I did it, but it happened. I was falling. It grabbed the tube of the lady who may or may not have come from Tanzania, okay? The tube went down. I know it's embarrassing. I'm so sorry to say this, but I have to confess. I'm trying to be honest here, okay? I still kept going down. On the right side, the lady who may or may not have come from Zwolle in the Netherlands was spinning around, so the miniskirt was sort of horizontal, and I grabbed, the leggings. I went down. I'm so sorry about this. I went down. And I must say, you must give credit where credit is due. The way she slapped my hand off those leggings, pulled them up in a single move, I had to say, respect. After that. But she was in no mood for that. She looked at me and she said, this was really bad, she said, "Stomme kanker eikel." I'm sorry to say, those of you who are not Dutch, it basically means you silly person, okay? And I could handle the silly person, but then she went to a new level. She said, "I bet your mother would be proud of you." Oh, that's when I got serious, because you don't say mother, and I suddenly changed my accent. I said, "My mama, your mama." She was infuriated. She jumped up and charged at me, and I just moved aside. Vroom, she was gone. She stopped 3 houses later. Such was the force of her rage. And I was about to say, "MMC in the house," when bam, I was body slammed because I completely forgot the young lady who may or may not have come from Tanzania. She body slammed me from the back, no sense of human decency. I was on the ground, but the main thing, it was as if her bones were made of uranium. The force of this. Imagine if David, remember the big guy, if his parents had 2 pet elephants, a man elephant and a lady elephant, and they fed those elephants bodybuilding supplements, and then those elephants had an elephant baby called Douglas, and Douglas became a big baby, and Douglas was angry, and Douglas hit you in the back. That was the force of it. I thought I was gone. I thought I would die. I almost found religion. Close? Not quite. Almost. It took 27 people, 27 adults, to take this lady off me. And then, once they took her off me, I thought my ordeal was over. No! My friend David apparently worked for Brutus. And he said, "Brutus says, you've got to go." And what does David do? He doesn't walk me out. He picks me up and tosses me out like I'm a javelin. The doors open. I fly out of this club. I fly out horizontal like a superhero without a cape and without a crash helmet. And I'm going out and I'm thinking, this is the end, because I see a truck coming at me and I know my physics and I know exactly what will happen when I hit the truck. When a big thing hits a small thing, the small thing never wins, right? Fortunately, I called into action move 371, which is The one hand, pole swing. I grabbed the lamppost, spun 7 times to the ground. The big crowd that was outside saw me, began to applaud and cheer. I bowed and said, thank you very much, and I walked off. So, what I'm basically trying to say, what I said at the beginning, if you get thrown out of a nightclub, make sure you have the skills, the mad skills, to come out of there and land and still feel cool. Thank you very much.